Dear students, after studying this module, you shall be able to know what do the terms crime or violence against women actually mean, about the prevalent crimes against women, about the different legal and constitutional provisions for women, and about the various national initiatives to stop crime against women. First, introduction to crime against women. In the ancient time, if we talk especially in context of India, women held a high place of respect in the society as specified in Rig Veda and other scriptures. But gradually, because of social, economical and political changes, women lost their status and were demoted from their previously occupied position in the society. Many evil customs and traditions stepped in, which enslaved the women and tied them to the boundaries of the house. And the situation is so worse today that the official statistics clearly demonstrate a declining sex ratio. Health status, literacy rate, rate of participation at work, and political participation among the women. While contrary to this, the spread of evils like domestic violence, child marriage, exploitation, sexual harassment, rape, kidnapping, molestation, dowry death, etc. have grown up in the society over the years in different parts of India. Now, what is the meaning of crime against women? The term crime against women literally includes all the direct or indirect mental or physical cruelty to women. Each and every crime which is aimed specifically against women and in which only women are victims could be characterized as crime against women. It is equally important here to clarify the concept of violence against women or VAW. Violence, which is called abuse, includes any sort of misbehave and physical aggression. VAW is a collective term that refers to those violent acts which are exclusively and primarily directed against the woman. When violence is committed at home, it becomes domestic violence and involves family members such as children, spouse, his parents or the parents or relatives of a woman herself. It may involve a number of means like biting, hitting, shoving, throwing objects, etc. In broad terms, VAW includes sexual and emotional abuse, threats, intimidation, stalking, economic deprivation, abduction, rape, kidnapping, murder, wife battering, dowry death, maltreatment of a widow, forcing for feticide, eve-teasing, etc. UN defined VAW in Declaration on the Eradication of Violence Against Women in 1993. It defines it as an act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or private life. The UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women states that violence against women is a manifestation of historically unequal power relations between men and the woman, and that violence against women is one of the crucial social mechanisms by which women are forced into a subordinate position compared with the men. Now we shall discuss about the prevalent crimes against women. First is rape. It is a type of sexual assault where there is a sexual intercourse with a woman by any person against her will and without her consent. Physical force, abuse of authority or coercion may be employed to carry out this act. In some cases, the person is incapable of giving a valid consent, like in a state of unconsciousness, incapacitation, or below the legal age of consent. A rape victim usually faces threats and violence from the rapist for stopping them to lodge the complaint or of forcing them to withdraw it, if lodged. In some cases, the violence is practiced even by the family of the victim as a punishment for bringing shame to the family. Second is domestic violence. Domestic violence, synonymously referred to spousal abuse, domestic abuse, family violence battering, and violence by intimate partner. It is a practice of abusive and violent behavior by one person against another, specifically in domestic context like in cohabitation or marriage. It may be verbal, emotional, physical, sexual, or economic in nature. All over the world, females are considered to be the soft target of domestic violence. Domestic violence victims may be trapped in such violent conditions through power and control, isolation, financial dependence, fear, shame, or to protect the children. Third is honor killing. Honor killings are a common form of violence against women in certain parts of the world. Honor killing is the killing of women and girls by family members, usually fathers, husbands, brothers, or uncles, as they have considered bringing dishonor to the family. Women are killed for several different reasons, like being in a relationship that is not approved by their family, attempting to leave a marriage, refusing to enter an arranged marriage, dressing in an inappropriate manner, becoming the victim of rape, etc. Next is human trafficking and forced prostitution. Human trafficking refers to the acquisition of persons by improper means like force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them. The protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, states that trafficking in persons shall mean the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation shall include at a minimum the exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or service, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude or the removal of organs. Forced prostitution or involuntary prostitution is prostitution or sexual slavery that takes place due to coercion by a third party. Forced prostitution is where a person gets engaged into sexual activities due to coercion by another person. Next is acid throwing. Acid throwing or acid attack or vitriolage may be defined as the act of throwing acid onto the body of a person coupled with the malicious intention of disfiguring or injuring the victim due to a feeling of revenge or jealousy. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, and nitric acid is the most commonly used acids in such attacks. Next is dowry death. The custom of dowry is very prevalent, especially in India. It becomes the root cause and triggers many forms of violence against women. Bride burning is a type of violence against women in which husband and his relatives kill the bride due to their dissatisfaction over the dowry provided by her family. Next is female infanticide. It is the deliberate killing of a female infant and also includes the termination of a female fetus. It has a history spanning centuries. The main reason behind the crime is the dowry system, as many poor families cannot afford it. In 1990, the census figures revealed that there were 25 million more men in comparison to women in India. In 1994, state declared it illegal to employ an ultrasound machine to determine the gender of a child. But by 2005, it was estimated that there are 50 million more males in India in comparison to females. Now we'll see WHO's typology of crimes against women. Phase and type of violence. Phase, if it is pre-birth, this is called sex-selective abortion. Then is infancy. The type of violence is psychological, physical and sexual abuse, and also female infanticide. In case of girlhood, there can be violences like child marriage, female genital mutilation, child prostitution, incest, psychological, physical and sexual abuse, pornography and forced prostitution. In case of adolescence and adulthood, the type of violence done is date rape and courtship violence, sexual abuse, incest, sexual harassment, rape, pornography and forced prostitution, trafficking, violence, dowry deaths, partner homicide, forced abortion, psychological, physical and sexual abuse. And in case of elderly women, forced homicide or suicide of widows for economic reasons, psychological, physical and sexual abuse. Now we shall see the constitutional provisions for women. Constitutional provisions for women are as under. Article 14 confers on men and women equal rights and opportunities in political, economic and social sphere. Article 15 subclause 1. It prohibits the state not to discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. Article 16. It provides for equality of opportunities, matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. Article 39, subclause A and D. It mentions policy security of state equality for both men and women, the right to means of livelihood and equal pay for equal work for both men and women. Article 42. It directs the state to make provision for ensuring just and humane conditions of work and maternity relief. Article 46. It directs the state to promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people and to protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. Article 51A, subclause E. It directs the state to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Article 243D, subclause 3. It states that not less than 1/3, including the number of seats reserved for women belonging to the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, of the total number of seats to be filled by direct election in every panchayat to be reserved for women, and such seats to be allotted by rotation to different constituencies in a panchayat. Article 243D, subclause 4. It states that not less than 1/3 of the total number of offices of the chairpersons in the panchayats at each level to be reserved for women. Article 243T, subclause 3. It states that not less than 1/3, including the number of seats reserved for women belonging to the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, of the total number of seats to be filled by direct election in every municipality to be reserved for women, and such seats to be allotted by rotation to different constituencies in a municipality. Article 243 T subclause 4, it promotes the reservation of offices of chairpersons in municipalities for the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes and women in such a manner as the legislature of a state may by law provide. Next is legal provisions for women. Although women may be a victim of almost any crime like robbery, murder, cheating, etc., the crimes which are specifically aimed against women are termed as crime against women. These are broadly categorized under two classes. First, the crimes identified under IPC, that is homicide for dowry, dowry deaths or their attempts, section 302, 304B of IPC, kidnapping and abduction for different purposes, section 363 to section 373, rape, section 376 of IPC, torture, both mental and physical, section 498A of Indian Penal Code, sexual harassment, section 509 of IPC, and next is molestation, section 354 of IPC. Second category of crimes is the crimes identified under the special laws, that is SLL. Although all laws are not gender specific, the provisions of law affecting women significantly have been reviewed periodically and amendments carried out to keep pace with the emerging requirements. Some acts which have special provisions to safeguard women and their interests are the Family Courts Act 1954, the Special Marriage Act 1954, the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the Hindu Succession Act of 1956 with amendment in 2005, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956, the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 amended in 1995, Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1971, the Equal Remuneration Act of 1976, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006, the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 1983, Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act of 1986, Commission of Sati Prevention Act of 1987, and the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. Next are national initiatives to stop crimes against women. First is National Commission for Women. In January 1992, the government set up this statutory body to study and monitor all matters relating to the constitutional and legal safeguards provided for women, review the existing legislation to suggest amendments wherever necessary, etc. Second, reservation for women in local self-government. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act passed in 1992 by Parliament ensured that the 1/3 of the total seats will be reserved for women in all elected offices in local bodies, whether in rural areas or urban areas. Third, the National Plan of Action for the Girl Child from 1991 to 2000. The plan of action was to ensure survival, protection and development of the girl child, with the ultimate objective of building up a better future for the girl child. Fourth, National Policy for the Empowerment of Women 2001. The Women and Child Development Department in the Ministry of Human Resource Development has prepared a national policy for the empowerment of women. in the year 2001. The goal of this policy is to bring about the advancement, development and empowerment of the women. Fifth is National Mission for Empowerment of Women 2010. This mission was launched in March 2010 as an important development that will provide the much required flip to a coordinated assessment of current government interventions and aligning future programs so as to translate the MPEW prescription into reality. The mission was worked out during the year 2011 and 12. Now we shall end this module with the summary. The term crime against women literally includes all the direct or indirect mental or physical cruelty to women. Each and every crime which is specifically aimed against women and in which only women are victims could be characterized as crime against women. Many evil customs and traditions stepped in, which enslaved the women and tied them to the boundaries of the house. And the situation is so worse today that the official statistics clearly demonstrate a declining sex ratio, health status, literacy rate, work participation rate and political participation among the women. The spread of evils like domestic violence, child marriage, exploitation, sexual harassment, rape, kidnapping, molestation, dowry death, etc. have grown up in the society over the years in different parts of India. Indian Constitution has different provisions for the safeguard of rights of women. Several legal provisions are also made for women like the Maternity Benefit Act, Dowry Prohibition Act, etc. Different policies and plans are still going on for uplifting and empowering the women, and for this purpose National Commission for Women was established in the year 1992. Thank you.